In this lesson, we're going to have a look at something called codominance. Codominance is when an allele for a gene is neither recessive nor dominant. It's something called codominant, which means it's dominant with another allele. This means that the allele is going to be expressed in the phenotype in the presence of another type of allele. In this example, we have a purebred red-flowered plant and a purebred white-flowered plant, and we cross them. The red and the white are codominant. We're told this in the question. We're going to have a look at the genetic cross. So the offspring are going to express both red and white in the phenotype. As with any other genetic cross, we have to start with assigning letters to the different alleles. So in this case, we're going to give red capital R and white is going to be capital W. They both have capitals because they are both dominant, they're codominant. We have to add another letter here to signify this codominance. The C, codominance, the colour, both red and white are codominant. We start the cross by writing down the parent's genotype. We have a pure red flowered plant, so that is going to be CR, and the white flower plant is also pure. We're told that in the question, which means it's homozygous, and it's CW. We then continue by writing down the gametes. So in this case, the red flower plant can only have CR inside the gametes, and the white flower plant can only have CW. And then we finish by doing the cross, CR, CW on the other side, and they are all CR, CW, so they are all heterozygous. Now, because red and white are both expressed in the phenotype, you're going to have a mixture of red and white. In this case, we're going to have CR, CW, so they are all pink. So they're a mixture of the two. Next, we're going to take two of these offspring and then cross them and see what the result is. We start by writing the parent genotype. So from the previous question, we know that was CR, CW for all of them. So CR, CW. We again continue by filling in the gametes. We have two possibilities for each of the gametes, CR and CW. And then we finish by doing the cross, our Punnett square, CR, CW, and CR, CW. So here are the results of the cross. We have three different genotypes, CR, CW, and CW. We then write down what the phenotypes of each of this is. So CR is red, CW is pink, CW is the same thing, and CW is white. And then we finish off by writing how many we have of each of these. So the red ones, here we have 1, the pink ones, we have 2, and then the white ones, we have 1. So 1:2 is to 1. Next, we're going to have a look at codominance in humans. An example is the human blood group system, which is controlled by 3 alleles, IA, IB, and I. IA and IB are dominant to O, and they are codominant to each other. So if we write down all the possible genotypes, we can then figure out what their phenotypes are as well. We can then write down the genotypes that are possible from all the different combinations. Let's start with IA, IB, and you'll notice that the letter I is capitalized and A and B are capitalized because remember A and B are codominant, and I is capitalized because it's A and B are dominant to blood group O. We then use a lowercase I for the allele for blood group O. So we can have 2 I's. We can have an IA and an I, and an IB and an I. Then we can fill in what the different phenotypes are. So if we have IA, the blood group is going to be A. If we have IB, the blood group is B. If we have IB, they have the blood group AB because they're codominant and both are expressed in the phenotype. If we have two small i's, we have blood group O. If we have IA, lowercase I, we have blood group A because A is dominant to O. And same thing with IBI, it's going to be blood group B because B is also dominant to O. Now let's try applying this information in a question. So here we have Mr. and Mrs. Smith have a child. Mr. Smith is blood group A and Mrs. Smith is blood group B, so those are their phenotypes. Their child is blood group O. Show how this is possible. So we're trying to figure out the parent's genotype first of all. We're told that Mr. Smith is blood group A, but he has a child who is blood group O. And remember, because O is recessive, the child has to have gotten that O allele from each of their parents. So Mr. Smith's genotype will then have to be IA and O. And Mrs. Smith, who is blood group B, has to have the genotype IB and O, because as well she will as well have to have given the O allele to her child. Next we fill in the gametes. I, and complete the cross. And we can see from the cross that it is possible. Here's our blood group O person, or our blood group O child. We can see from the cross as well that we have 4 potential different phenotypes. We have this one here, which is blood group AB. We also have blood group A. And finally, we also have blood group B. And for each of those, each has a possibility of 25%.